the moment I was introduced to the internet many years ago, I have been consuming way too much content than an average person, and I'm very aware of it. But I used to read a lot of books, ranging from fiction to non-fiction. But currently, I'm reading a book called Dune. If you guys must have come across the
Oh, the
franchise.
famous film, right? Yeah, I've seen the film though. Yeah,
Dude's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
the author wrote this book a couple of decades ago, but considering how contemporary it feels, it's amazing. It's a science fiction, or yeah, it's science fiction essentially, based in a world where humanity advanced to such a level that they could create artificial intelligence machinery that took over their every function, and which led to a war between the machines and human beings. And eventually, human beings survived and defeated the machines, and then a religious movement amongst the human beings decided that they will not create machines uh, that resemble human minds. And since then they started relying on other aspects. They started to improve human beings or human intellect to such a level that they can enhance their abilities, their mental abilities or their physical abilities in many ways. And they do so by relying on various substances. And one of the substance that is very common in this particular science fiction is something called spice, kind of like
Right.
oil in the real world. And the entire trade and the politics and conflicts that the people are engaged in this world are surrounding that, and this particular resource is only harvested from a planet called Arrakis, or Dune as they call it otherwise. And it's very interesting, the story. Talks about it also talks about an aspect that is very how do you say, interesting, or that is very attractive to me, is the desert. When we talk about taking a holiday somewhere, we talk about going, to the mountains or to the beach. Or if you talk about nature again, we talk about the power of nature, and we talk about how forests feel. But something about the desert is very interestingly discussed in this book, at how the people in the desert develop against all adversity and how their culture evolves around it. So there's a certain anthropological element of that as well. So it's a very cerebral book to say for a fiction piece of content.
Yeah, but like you were talking about Dune. Dune is it's a very successful series or a successful franchise because of the world building in Dune. Of course, it has to be based
Yeah.
in realism, but there's so many like forward and backward relationships and linkages between everything. It's infinite to explore.
Yeah, and that's the same case with the Lord of the Rings as well, right? The world
Yeah,
building is so extensive that there is no dearth of lore that is created around it as well. At
that's
this point,
true.
a lot of fan fiction is also taken into, not in the main canon but into mainstream storyline as well. It's the same case with the Star Wars story as well, where there's a main canon and there's so many shows that are coming out
Right. Yeah.
based on either fan fiction or lore, uh, uh, of stories that were happening parallelly to the conflict between the empire and the rebels.
Right. Now only if the big wigs at these film industries let anything go into the public domain, we might see some more interesting things. But I don't think that's happening in our lifetime.
I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed The Mandalorian. If you guys have watched it in recent times, uh, it's a really beautifully crafted show on.
Mandalorian was fantastic. All the way
Yeah.
down to the music was so nice.
Star Wars spin-off, right? This is
Yeah,
Yes.
this is Star Wars.
okay. Yeah, okay.
That's also the desert. Wow, yeah, you really do like, added
I,
ideas.
I like the idea of desert, man. I mean, again, the planet of Tatooine is where everything starts, right?
No,
Uh,
That's
now
true.
we know what dress type is. Desert fantasy. Okay. Yeah, please go on. Please go on. Sorry to interrupt. Please.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a I think because a lot of these writers are also from the West, and the Avatar, for example, in Dune, the Avatar is basically this hero named Paul. In Star Wars, the Avatar is essentially Luke Skywalker from the planet Tatooine. And if you take a parallel, you can figure out, like, for example, in mainstream religion, in the from that comes from the West, a lot of their prophets or their avatars have come from the desert, right?
Oh, but
Correct.
interesting you mentioned Avatar or Avatar. I don't know how to pronounce it when we're talking about these Western franchises. But
Yeah.
if you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, have you guys?
No,
Yes.
I haven't. I haven't watched it. Yeah,
Oh,
but
you
please.
definitely should.
Okay.
It holds up even to this day. It's a cartoon, but god damn it, if I have like an annual rewatching of the Avatar.
Yeah,
But
I think you
apart from
need it.
that,
Yeah.
You
apart from
need
that, they've also
sometimes.
started releasing books, for the Avatar franchise. This is all canon, and they're talking about like the avatars that came previously, and they're really, really, really good. Like they're very mature. I think they understood that the people who liked Avatar growing up are kind of now grown up, so the same cartoonish atmosphere is not really going to work for them anymore. So
Yeah.
they've kind of grown up with the kids who liked Avatar, and now it's a very, very intense series, and it's very, very interesting the way they've portrayed like all the different nations and their cultures, and even within the nation, the different cities have their own cultures. It's brilliant. I have to like recommend that.
That is beautiful, man. I think in the same breath, if cities and nations are described, I think Naruto does that really well as well. If you guys have watched Naruto.
Naruto does, yeah. It does.
Yeah,
Oh wow,
and
yeah,
it's
we're all over the content factory.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
look at that, like the village in the sky, the village hidden in the leaves, and all these different villages and the nations that are around it, and just the conspiracy of the Akatsuki in it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how they've built that world and how much it reflects the
What I
real world.
about the Naruto world building, if you'd spare me, is the and this is going back to me, I think being an urban planner, a little bit of a nerd in that sector. But the
Yeah.
way they've designed each of the four, I think the main villages, things hidden in the leaves, stone, sand, and mist, I think, right?
Yeah,
All
mist. Yeah,
four of those villages are very like to the attention to detail, even to like the rooftops. So, for example, like the village hidden in the or the village hidden in the mist, I think
yeah,
those rooftops are specifically made because it's raining all the time over there,
yeah,
or it's there's a lot of fog over there. So they made the buildings to be taller structures so that they can kind of you know go over the mist itself. In fact, there are a lot of stilts and everything, but the village
yeah,
hidden in the leaves, which is like a valley, those are
yeah.
normal houses, just like a bunch of I think that attention to detail is fantastic. Even in the colors and the color scheme of the villages, it really shows.
It does. It does.